Hello, my name is Jeremy, and this is the True Crime Chronicles channel. A prosperous businesswoman, weary of solitude and possessing a significant fortune, encountered a charismatic anesthesiologist who harbored dreams of finding his ideal partner. From their initial encounter, a tempest of passion enveloped them, yet not all were delighted by the joyous glimmer in the eyes of the smitten pair. Debra Newell is the protagonist of our narrative, a stylish, successful, and quite affluent woman. Her millions were not a stroke of luck, but the result of her dedication and hard work. She spent years climbing the ranks in the interior design industry, ultimately founding her own design firm, Ambrosia. Debra devoted 3 decades to this venture, deeply passionate about her profession. However, her personal life, particularly her romantic relationships, didn't mirror this success. Despite being married 4 times, each union ended in divorce. She was a devoted mother to her 4 children, but her romantic endeavors with men consistently fell short. Having secured her financial future, Debra yearned for something more fundamental, the simple joy of familial happiness. Her life took a significant turn a few years earlier due to a family tragedy. Cindy, her older sister, was killed by her brother-in-law, Billy Vickers, in March 1984. Cindy and Debra's mother testified against her own daughter and supported Billy during the trial. As a result, Vickers was given a very light sentence and only went to prison for a few years for this horrible murder. Billy and Cindy were parents to 2 children, and this tragedy deeply wounded them. Following this encounter, Debra also experienced extreme anxiety and developed a panic attack fearing firearms. She lived alone for a long time, and several friends encouraged her to purchase a pistol, but she couldn't bear the actual presence of a weapon next to her. Debra took excellent care of her appearance and surrounded herself with lovely things. She lavished a great deal of time and money on skincare, makeup, and hair. At this point in her life, she possessed a plethora of fashionable stuff, including Chanel gems, Cartier Denim, and Gucci shoes. The only thing she lacked was a devoted partner. John Mian, a central character in our story, was born on February 3, 1958, in California, where he grew up alongside his sisters Karen and Donna. His father, known for his deceitful and fraudulent nature, passed these qualities on to John. Early in life, John became involved in deceptive schemes and fraudulent activities for his livelihood. He also dealt in illegal substances, which he used himself, leading to multiple confrontations with law enforcement and his eventual banishment from California. In 1988, he completed his undergraduate studies at Arizona State University, earning a Bachelor of Arts degree, and later joined the University of Dayton's law faculty. His friends labeled him Dirty John, due to his ability to effortlessly attract women. John was notably handsome, standing around 6 feet 3 inches tall, with hazel green eyes and thick dark hair, and his engaging smile was particularly appealing to women. Post his academic journey, John encountered Tanya Sells, a nurse anesthetist by profession. They tied the knot in November 1990, when she was 25 and he was 31. Their relationship was fundamentally based on falsehoods, and John kept Tanya isolated from his family, alleging their malevolence. Tanya supported her husband while attending medical school in Tennessee and helped him get his license as an anesthesiologist. The couple had 2 children, but over time their marriage began to fall apart. Tanya learned from John's mother and sisters that he had been deceiving her about his past. She also found his secret stash of pills that he had been stealing from patients in need, and to which he himself was addicted, which explained his temper. Tanya immediately reported it to the police. Following an investigation, John admitted to all charges. However, he chose to flee the state instead of turning himself in to the authorities, taking refuge in a Michigan hotel. The police easily located him. John was discovered unconscious, encircled by vacant pill containers, leading them to summon an ambulance to transport him to a hospital. En route, he regained consciousness, seized a medication, and leapt from the ambulance. He was apprehended once more and subsequently received a 6-year prison sentence in Michigan for resisting arrest and illegal drug possession. Remarkably, John served only 17 months behind bars. He somehow managed to have his sentence reduced and was freed in 2004. It was during this time in his life that he encountered Debra. John, at 55, and Debra, at 59, decided to explore online dating, which is how their paths crossed. Debra was quite taken with John's online profile. He described himself as a divorced doctor and Christian in search of love. Debra, having experienced a series of disappointing dates, was pleasantly surprised when she met John. He showed genuine interest in her life, commended her accomplishments, and seemed different. Their initial date was in October 2014 at a restaurant named Houston's in Irvine, California. John's goal was to captivate Debra, and he did so by sharing, albeit fabricated, tales of his past, including a stint with Doctors Without Borders in Iraq. He talked about having 2 children and owning multiple properties. Debra pictured a selfless doctor who had devoted himself to global service. John treated her like she was the most wonderful woman in the world, a queen, precisely what Debra, yearning for companionship, longed to experience. He even expressed eagerness to meet her family. His charming words made Debra's heart flutter, and overwhelmed by the attention and flattery, they found themselves at her penthouse after leaving the restaurant. However, John overstepped boundaries on this occasion. After a few kisses, he sought to escalate things, but Debra, uncomfortable with the pressure, asked him to leave. The following morning, John sought to amend his error. He called Debra, apologizing and explaining that he had consumed too much alcohol and couldn't contain his emotions. This admission once again raised John's standing in Debra's perception, leading to the continuation of their dates. As their relationship progressed, Debra and John spent increasing amounts of time together. On their 3rd date, John declared his love and proposed. Debra was so delighted by their companionship that she overlooked several peculiarities. For instance, John consistently wore his well-worn, somewhat unclean medical scrubs. At a stylish charity event organized by Debra, John arrived in his scrubs, claiming he had no time to change. Nonetheless, Debra didn't mind and proudly introduced him as her doctor to friends, posing with him for photos. Their bond deepened, and they soon decided to move in together. Debra's daughter, Jacqueline, who lived in the penthouse with her, was forthright and critical of her mother's partners. She disapproved of John's unkempt appearance, finding it odd that her mother, typically adorned in Gucci, was involved with someone in dirty robes. Jacqueline also noticed John's peculiar interest in the penthouse's art, statues, and paintings, as if he were evaluating their worth. John persuaded Debra that they should live separately. Just 5 weeks after meeting, they rented a house for $6,500 a month on Balboa Island's waterfront in Newport. Debra paid $80,000 up front for several months' rent, while John avoided putting his name on the lease, citing tax complications. So smitten was Debra that she covered all expenses herself, unbeknownst to her children. She couldn't fathom her children's disapproval of John, as he pampered her like royalty, preparing morning coffee, doing grocery shopping, and striving to simplify her life. Debra felt sure she had found her perfect match in John. She was hopeful that in time, her children would warm up to him, envisioning a future where they all formed a harmonious family. Eager to bridge this gap, Debra planned for John to meet her younger daughter, Tara, who was known for her softer disposition compared to Jacqueline. Tara was residing in Las Vegas with her boyfriend, and upon hearing about John over the phone, she decided to meet him in person. Tara's visit coincided with Debra and John's move into their new residence. From their first encounter, Tara felt uneasy about John. His lack of cordiality, coupled with his silent, solitary efforts in moving belongings, as he tried to project a tough exterior, didn't sit well with her. Despite her reservations, Tara was willing to give John the benefit of the doubt. Yet, she quickly began to observe concerning signs. John didn't own a vehicle, and, although he claimed to have properties in Newport Beach and Palm Springs, he never suggested relocating or even invited them to visit. Moreover, John appeared to spend most of his days at home, often engrossed in video games. Just before Thanksgiving, Tara decided to snoop through her mother's boyfriend's belongings and found a nurse's certificate with his name, realizing he was not a doctor. When John found out about this, he became furious and threw a massive tantrum. He accused Tara of trying to deprive her mother of happiness, shouting that she wouldn't succeed in separating them, while Debra just stood there listening. Eventually, there was a big argument, and Tara left the house. John used the situation to convince Debra that her children were only after her wealth. They were waiting for her demise and thus didn't want to see her happy. On the eve of Thanksgiving, Debra's mother, Arlene, a very religious woman, arrived. John put on an entire religious act in front of her, but instead of approval, he received another scandal. The holiday ended in another fiasco. Subsequently, Debra opted to seek guidance from a psychotherapist, who recommended establishing limits with her offspring and pursuing a tranquil existence, a suggestion she embraced. She and John made Balboa Island their home, indulging in local eateries, strolling about, and relishing the picturesque views. At times, John exhibited youthful exuberance, capturing bare-chested selfies and sharing them with her, engaging in playful activities, which rejuvenated her spirit. Debra was immensely joyful, yet she remained apprehensive about John's attire. His wardrobe was limited to aged medical scrubs, loose, frayed trousers, and worn-out shirts, whereas Debra desired her partner to be fashionably attired and complement her way of life. John claimed his finer garments were pilfered during a stint in Iraq. Hence, Debra escorted him on a shopping spree, acquiring a complete set of high-end designer outfits for him. In early December, John accompanied Debra on a work-related trip to Las Vegas. By this time, their acquaintance was just under 2 months old, yet they chose to marry. Debra concealed this development from her children. On one occasion, an unknown woman managed to enter John and Debra's residence. John seized this incident to persuade Debra of the need for enhanced security measures. Subsequently, he set up multiple surveillance cameras within their home, which he operated via his smartphone. He extended this surveillance to his wife's office, aiming to monitor her activities. John's objective was to exert total control over their environment. Gradually, Debra began to inquire about his family background and previous life. For each query, John had an immediate justification or excuse. Despite noticeable inconsistencies, Debra chose to ignore them, convinced she had met her ideal partner, though her children remained skeptical. Jacqueline took the initiative to investigate John's activities. Since he didn't own a vehicle, he utilized Debra's Tesla. Jacqueline installed tracking devices on the car to monitor his whereabouts, but this surveillance didn't reveal anything significant. Then, she and Tara engaged a private investigator. The detective soon returned with findings. They uncovered that John had declared bankruptcy, possessed a nursing license but not one for practicing medicine, and had resided in Arizona, Ohio, Indiana, Tennessee, and California. One address associated with John was the Orange County Jail. When the daughters shared these discoveries with their mother, Debra asserted that even if these facts were accurate, her affection for him would remain unchanged. In late March, a letter intended for John was received by Debra. The sender was a former prison inmate, but she couldn't read it as John quickly grabbed the letter from her. Initially, he accused her of mistrust with a burst of anger, then claimed it was from a pen pal whom he was supporting emotionally. Debra felt uneasy about this explanation. The following day, with her husband away on work, she decided to sift through his belongings. This search unveiled startling truths about the man she had wed. She discovered that John was an ex-nurse anesthetist who had succumbed to an addiction to pain medication, leading to his arrest and the collapse of his professional life. Additionally, Debra uncovered evidence of his history as a swindler. Court records revealed that John had previously cheated and stolen from numerous women he encountered online. The court files included a search warrant for his storage unit, where authorities found a .38 caliber Colt handgun, bullets, a GPS tracker, syringes, and other suspicious items. It was at this moment Debra recognized John's true identity: a perilous individual, an armed felon. He had various restraining orders issued against him by different women. Most alarmingly, she learned he had been released from prison on October 8th, only to meet her mere days later. Overwhelmed by the revelations, Debra meticulously examined the documents, feeling a mix of shock and fear. She realized the potential danger John posed to her and her children. Choosing to act normal temporarily, Debra waited for the right moment. When John left for the hospital due to back issues, she seized the opportunity. With her family's assistance, she moved out during his absence. During the packing process, they stumbled upon additional documents of John's. These were printouts of online comments from other women warning about him. They portrayed John as a persuasive and adept deceiver, cautioning others to not be swayed by his attractiveness and charm. Convinced of his instability, Debra resolved to end their relationship and leave. Despite her decision, John persistently messaged her, pleading for her to visit him in the hospital. Overcome with guilt, Debra relented. By June 2015, John successfully persuaded Debra to reconcile. He offered numerous justifications for the oddities found among his possessions. He admitted to concealing his past, believing that a woman of her stature wouldn't have noticed him otherwise. He had feigned being a doctor to impress her, and now implored her assistance to rehabilitate and salvage his life. Still enamored, Debra granted him another chance. They relocated to a new apartment in Irvine together. This decision deeply troubled her children, leading the couple to maintain a distance from them temporarily. March 2016 had arrived, and the couple had been married for a year and 3 months. Debra had been helping John to recover from his addiction, but she was distressed by the fact that her entire family hated him, especially Jacqueline, and this hatred was mutual. It got to the point where her husband forbade Debra from seeing her daughter. When John found out that Debra was paying for Jacqueline's real estate lessons, he called the school and slandered the girl in front of the teachers. In addition to this, he wrote her threatening and indecent messages, saying that her mother didn't want anything to do with her, and that one day he would come and end Jacqueline. It seemed that John was recovering, but at the same time, he was becoming even more evil and cruel. In April 2016, Debra reached her limit of patience and filed for divorce. She wanted to peacefully break off the relationship, so she started to gradually withdraw money from her bank account to keep it safe. However, in her hiding place, in one of the lower drawers, there was $30,000. When John discovered this money, he claimed that these funds also belonged to him. The man realized that the case was heading towards divorce and began to show aggression. Debra understood that she needed to flee. She took some of her cosmetics and work things and moved to Jacqueline's apartment in Irvine. The woman felt safe there because the complex had many surveillance cameras. She tried to obtain a restraining order, but the Orange County judge rejected her request because there was no immediate threat. John lived in another state and did nothing. All she could do was break off the relationship and just try to move on. Following his separation, John relocated to one of Debra's properties in Nevada. He persistently tried to contact her, but she consistently ignored his calls. Opting for a different approach, John took a drastic step on June 11, 2016. That day, Debra drove her Jaguar to work. While she was at the office, her car was stolen from the parking lot. It was later discovered about 1.5 blocks away, drenched in gasoline. Despite the intent, the car had only sustained minor damage as it hadn't been set ablaze. The security footage from the area unmistakably identified John Mian as the perpetrator of the theft. On the evening of August 20th, 2016, Tara returned home from her job and parked in the lot. As she exited her car, John emerged unexpectedly. He assaulted her with a knife, attempting to drag her back into the vehicle. Tara screamed for help. In the ensuing scuffle, when John covered her mouth, she bit him hard. A fierce struggle broke out on the spot. Tara, donning heavy boots, managed to kick her assailant and dislodge the knife from his grasp. Seizing a moment of resolve, she picked up the knife and began to repeatedly stab John. She inflicted 13 wounds, with the final strike piercing his eye. Trembling with shock, Tara was fortunate to be seen by a neighbor who came to her aid with a towel for her injuries and called the police. John, however, was still alive. The paramedics found he had a pulse upon their arrival. In his car, authorities discovered duct tape, cable ties, kitchen knives, and a passport, indicating he might have planned to abduct Tara and flee the city with her as a hostage. John Mian was taken to the hospital, but succumbed to his injuries 4 days later at the age of 57. His remains were cremated, and no memorial service was held, as he was universally despised by those who knew him. Debra and her children were deeply traumatized by the whole situation. It took some time for the woman to return to normal life, but she still struggles with feelings of guilt for bringing a criminal into her family. Debra has become very cautious now. She carries a stun gun and pepper spray to protect herself at all times. She declared that she would never again meet someone online. Based on the story of John Mian was filmed on the crime series Dirty John. Some of the footage in this video is taken from it. If you like this story, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss new videos. Don't forget to like and share your opinion in the comments. This is Jeremy. See you in the next video.